Hello and welcome to the live stream. Been 3 weeks off for me, so I'm sure there'll be something that goes wrong today. But today we are talking about the OBSBOT Tail Air. This is a really interesting device, actually, and they contacted me a couple of weeks ago and asked if I'd like to test it out. And they've actually sent me 3 of them. So there's another one just behind me over there, and I'll talk about how these are all set up in a little while. But it's actually a really interesting device because it's got so many different ways that it can connect to your computer. So it's, first of all, it is a 4K streaming device that can plug in either over USB, so there's a little USB port on the side there, USB-C. There's also an HDMI out though, so if you want to take it into a capture card, you can do that as well. But there is also streaming via Ethernet, so there is a dongle that you can get, which I've currently got plugged into this one and another one over here, which I'll show you in a moment. But that allows you to connect it over Ethernet, and then you can use either the RTSP protocol or NDI to actually transmit the video. It will also work over Wi-Fi. So pretty great that you've got all these different connection options. And as a streaming solution, then, if you're in a studio like I am, then, a multicam setup, and I can show you, a few different cameras going on the screen here. So here is all of them. In fact, of course, they're not all there because I've got one of them unplugged. Let me just come swiftly out of that and I'll set that up for you in a moment. But if you've got, want to have a multicam setup for a studio to show different camera angles and things like that, then obviously, this would be a way to do it. This is another one that's just obviously over here. But really the interest that I had in these is not to have lots of different angles of my particular studio, but because I'm working with a number of people who are doing either live events or other people who are working in fields where they're sort of working somewhat remotely. So obviously this does have a battery in it, and it can work wirelessly as well. There are a number of accessories for this as well, which I'll get into in a little while, but obviously you can use it wired. So the reason why this particular camera was missing off that list was because if I plug in the USB-C here and I can plug in the HDMI, this one I've got working over HDMI. Where's the HDMI? You can plug that into there, like that. And now if I switch over to this camera, it's probably going to be a weird camera angle, but there we go, looking through that. Now the image at the moment, I've not done any tweaking of it, so it's just as it is. But if I just move this around for a little second, and it is a PTZ camera, pan, tilt, zoom, so it means that I do have full control over the position of it, the where it's pointing to. There are also a number of different presets on it as well, so you can set those up and have I've got the little remote here, which I'll talk about in a moment, but here I've just got a number of different presets. So if I come over to this camera, for example, I can switch to camera 2 on the remote, which I'll talk about more. And we've got position 1. I could show you my my lights. If I click on the button here, whoops daisy, isn't it always the same that the the demos never quite work? Let me just try and fix this 1 second. Isn't it always the same? Things work absolutely flawlessly, and then the first time you're actually live streaming talking about them, then suddenly they decide to give up on you. So let me just see what I have possibly done there. Maybe I am actually adjusting the wrong one. Here we go. Let's go back to this. And we've got that one working, and it's just this one here. Isn't this always the case? Aren't demos an absolutely wonderful thing? Let me just try this one. There we go. I should probably switch back to this one. Let me see. And of course, that one's not linked up. There we go. That's the end of the stream today. I'll see you all next week. Right. What I'll do is I'll do some a bit of troubleshooting with this on the fly, because, as I say, these have been working flawlessly for a week. And then the second I go live, they decide not to. Isn't that the joy of live streaming? I mentioned the remote there. The primary way that you're going to set these up, though, so I'll just kindly nicely segue into this, is that there is a mobile app. Now, at the moment, the mobile app is Android only, and I had to go out and get an Android mobile, but it is coming to iOS as well. So I should say that this has been an Indiegogo project, and so it's just in the sort of pre-release at the moment. So actually, all of these devices are technically prototypes, and the software is all sort of in beta, as it were, at the moment. But if I just come down to this one here, I can show you the app. So at the moment, I'm looking at this camera directly in front of me, which is the one, as you can see, with my finger, the one in the top left of your screen. The one that I'm pointing at right now on the right-hand side of your screen is my Sony ZV-E10. And then down here, we've got the mobile app. So you can access all of the different features of it from in here. So the pan, tilt, and zoom I can control from the app. So you can see as I'm moving that around. You can adjust the speed of this as well, by the way. So you can have control over the speed of movement. There is these different presets as well that you can save. So you can save up to 3 presets. And then if I press the button, it's just going to zoom in on that particular area. Press preset number 2, it's going to move over to that one, preset number 3, and so on. You get the idea. It also does have a lot of functionality when it comes to sort of color correction and things like that. So I haven't really done a proper setup of this yet. However, if I go into here, you've got the and I should say, let me just put up on screen just for a second while we're here. I'll just put up some specs to just go through this so that we're starting with this information. The 1.8 inch CMOS Sony sensor. It's got an 8 sort of piece prime lens assembly with an aperture of f1.8, so it is actually great for sort of low light. The output is 4K 30 frames per second or 1080p at 60 frames per second, and then it's got some AI tracking and gesture control, which we'll get into in a moment. I've already mentioned those 4 different modes of connection, and then also the PTZ control using the app which we're looking at right now, and then also the remote. But the other thing you can do with it is you can actually control it with a network PTZ controller as well. So I'll just sort of mention what that is in a little while as well. You can also actually stream from the device itself, and also forgot to mention that it has a micro SD card, so you can actually record on the device itself as well. So incidentally, the PTZ controller that I was talking about, this is not made by them. This is a third-party controller, but this would be something that you could use to control sort of network pan, tilt, zoom cameras, and you can actually pair something like this, or any other brand with these, so that you can actually then control them over the network. So obviously I've got these cameras at the moment all in my studio, one in front of me, one there, and one behind me. So it's very easy to use the mobile app or the remote to just sort of control those. However, if you were doing some sort of live production, maybe you're in a much bigger facility, maybe somebody's monitoring all this from a control room, and you've got the cameras, in a conference hall or something like that, then you would be able to have full control over these using a PTZ controller, something like that. So that is basically works over Ethernet, and then it's sort of addressing each individual camera. Also, when it's plugged in over Ethernet as well, that you can have full control. So the little sort of a joystick there is to control the position of them, and then you can program all the presets basically that you could do with the app or with the remote. You could do with something like that. Incidentally, the remote, just to show you this again, it's got a little joystick in the middle, so that's how you sort of control the position. And you can see that if I sort of do that, the one in the background is sort of rotating around. In the back there, you've got up to 3 cameras, so 1, 2, and 3, and then you've got these different presets for positions P1, P2, P3 down there as well. To actually set those, you can just sort of move the camera into position that you want it, and then you can just press and hold the button, and then that will just fix that as a preset, and then that will be addressable. Then when you just sort of press the button, it will move to that position. There's a couple of other things in here. So there is tracking mode. So I'll talk about tracking in a moment, but you can activate that from the remote itself. There's also a built-in laser pointer, interestingly enough, because obviously if you're using this at a conference or something like that, then having a laser pointer to be able to point on to things, I guess, would be useful. Although I'm not sure you'd necessarily be actually controlling the device while you are up on stage. But anyway, maybe there's another use for that I'm missing, and a few other controls on here. There's also the zoom in and zoom out is on the back there. One thing that looks a little bit weird, and I've seen this in other reviews of people who have had early access to these and tested them, is this whole arrangement on the side. And so I saw what was it? Senpai Gaming, he reviewed them, and he was sort of confused by this, and I've got to say I was as well when I got it out of the box and thought, it looks like this is part of a bigger device, and so it's not like a sort of all-in-one remote. So I wondered if it was like a kind of off-the-shelf remote that had been for something else, and they had sort of repurposed it for this, given that it is a sort of early access prototype. But with a little bit of digging, I found something really interesting. Now I understand that this isn't going to be in the initial release. But the idea for this was that there was going to be this screen that attaches to it as well. So then you would really have a complete all-in-one control and viewing device. Now, as I understand it from being in some of the forums about the Tail Air launch and so on, that one of the guys that's involved in the development there has said that they had some issues with this particular screen, and so that's not going to be available as part of the initial release. But it's interesting that the remote is still obviously shipping as was, and I understand that they are still working on that. So that would be a really cool addition to have, like a sort of full controller unit like that. And especially if that's going to work over, I'm not sure whether it would or not, I'm just speculating, but if that was going to work over a network as well. So that little network controller that I mentioned, if that was something that you know, you could have instead of something like this, where you've got it as a desktop device where you can actually see the outputs, that would be really interesting. I digress slightly. Let me just pop back to this thing, because what I need to do is I need to actually just get up my Ecamm camera switcher just to understand which one of my cameras seems to be missing and which one I need to fix. Or is it back now? I think it's actually back. There we go. Let me come back to that view. I think what it might be is it might be that in this view, oh no, there we go. So what we've got here then is, if I just put this one back to position 1, you can see that I can just have these preset positions, the one down at the bottom left, don't know my left from right. I've just got 3 different positions locked into this, and so this is giving you a bit of a view of my my studio. There are my lights, there's my acoustic panel just above my head. And so just being able to move around like that. The other thing that I was just having a slight issue with was this one. Let's see if everything suddenly fixed itself now. I wonder if it's actually, let me try switching this off. Maybe that it's just suddenly decided to not pair, or I've not paired it properly. Let me try and do this once more whilst we are here. I'll just press this so to pair the remote, you basically just press the this button here with that one. Let me see. I may have just messed things up. There we go. It's still moving this one though. Never mind. I'll just ignore this one for the moment. I have done something. It is guaranteed to be human error. So let me just come back to this one though. So let's come back to the actual app itself. And in here, yeah, you've got full control over the thing. I sort of digress to talk about the specs of the lens here, but you've got the ISO, the shutter speed, and so on. There's also various other different settings that you can adjust here, like flipping the picture and so on, as you can see. HDR setting and various other different things in there as well. But you've also got in here this AI tracking. So there's a number of different gestures that you can use. So if you hold up your hand like this, it actually activates face tracking. And so if I now move, then it will follow me around. There's various different things that you can set in here as well. So if you want to set up, let's have a look where we are. If I go into these settings, wrong one, these ones. And if I go into the gesture control, this shows you the different gestures. So if you hold up your hand, it's going to set the target. You've got a record gesture. So if you've got a card in and you hold up your hand like this, it's going to start the recording. You've also got zoom. So if I hold up my hand like this, then it will just automatically zoom to a predefined level. You've also got dynamic zoom, which is if you hold your hand like this, then you can have it to zoom in and zoom out if I get my hands in the right place based on the position of your hands. So and you can set the increments that's going to zoom. There is also a couple of options here in terms of the specific area that you are capturing. So you've got all the controls for the output methods, by the way. So UVC is USB video, basically video over USB. I forget what this C is standing for, but you can basically toggle on these different modes. So USB mode, NDI or RTSP. None of these are activated on this particular camera because I'm doing it over the HDMI. You've then got media settings where you can set the resolution and so on out of there as well. Tail Air settings, so you've got various different things here in terms of the control of the device itself with timer, auto power off, all of that kind of stuff. And then let me just come down. There is a section here. If I go to About Device, there you've got the name, the serial number, the Bluetooth address, the wireless address, and so on, and firmware. So firmware updates are done via the app on the currently Android, but coming to iOS as well. So that's where you would do the that part of it. You update that through the app and onto the device. There is a setting somewhere which I'm just missing for a second, which is talking about, like, with the tracking at the moment. If I just switch over to a different mic, so this is just my lav mic now, but you can see if I switch over to here, or maybe this one, you can see what the tracking is like. It's pretty quick and sort of keeps up with me. So wherever I go, if I disappear out of shot, it'll probably just get confused for a little bit. But you can see how sort of fast around the room that it's moving. Let me just plug my monitors back in. There we go. Switch over to my other mic again. The other thing then that you can do on the app, if we just go back to the app for a second, is here you can see the tracking. It's sort of showing up with this little box on the screen. You can change the this is actually the speed of the zoom, but if I go into the AI section, you can change the speed of the tracking as well. So it's currently on standard, but you can change that to slow, and that is showing you how fast that is moving. Whereas if I go to fast, then it's going to sort of track that faster. This is obviously the top left hand camera. You can also then move so the composition lines here, these are these little yellow lines that are on the screen. You can set the composition. So if you want it to be that, you've always got yourself to one side of the screen, then it's still going to track you, but you're just adjusting sort of where you are in the shot. So that's something that you may want to adjust. That is not to the right place. So if I click on that, so it's now going to keep me sort of in that position as I move around, and always be just over at that side. So that is the composition that you can adjust there. If I click on the AI, so this is the setting that I was looking for earlier. So you've got either wide, auto, close up, half body, or full body. So if I just switch over to this is going to obviously show you what portion you want to be capturing. So if I change that to half body, then it's going to zoom in somewhat. And if I go to the close-up, then it's going to still track me, but it's much sort of closer up, obviously. And then the other one is wide. So if you just want a wide shot, it'll track like that. So those are some of the settings that you've got from the AI tracking. Personally, although you can turn on and off the tracking just by sort of holding your hand up, and then the little light on the front will flash. So now it's turned off the tracking. I have already found, even though I've not been using it as my sort of primary camera, I have already found that just with me flailing my hands around, as I often tend to do while I'm talking and gesturing, then sometimes it's inadvertently sort of activated that tracking. So that's just one thing to be aware of. And I'm not generally a fan of gesture controls. I guess it would be great if you're standing on a stage somewhere and you want to be able to activate some of these things, but I'm my own worst enemy with that kind of stuff. So just coming back over to here though, I've already mentioned the different positions that you can save. So you can just save presets in here, and you can just click on one and update the position if you want to save it as a new preset. But in terms of the quality though, I mean, I haven't done much of an adjustment of the settings in these. This is pretty much as they come out of the box, but you've got control over all of the usual things that you would expect. The speed of it, as I say, you can adjust that, but as a tool for just sort of showing off different things, let me switch back to this mic, in in a studio space. So when I'm doing demos, not necessarily the one right behind me, but certainly this one over to the right hand side, to be able to zoom in on specific aspects of the stuff that I'm trying to demo for Amazon Lives, which I'm going to be starting to do more of in the coming weeks. Then it'll be great for that, for showcasing things. But really, it is the reason reason why I was intrigued to test it out was for some of these other use cases. So it'd probably be useful to just flick over to the website. And by the way, this is linked in a pinned comment at the top and also in the description. But because they are, essentially could be used fully wirelessly, then they are really useful for things where, I mean, some of these use cases they've got here, in a kitchen, multi-camera angles, and look at the sort of size of them. So instead of having some sort of bulky camera, it's pretty lightweight as well. Having it just on a simple stand like that would be, really easy to do. Interview processes as well. Again, nothing too intrusive and out of the and taking up too much space. Live performances, live events, and as I say, the sporting thing is something that I'm interested in. I'm a bit lazy these days and don't tend to venture much out from the studio, but I am working with a number of sports coaches and people like that who are looking for ways to capture active movement instead of my rapid movements here at my desk. So because of the human tracking, it's also got animal tracking as well. Then you can actually just have this set up and it can be tracking all of the action that is going on. There's also another thing actually built into the app, which I should just tell you about, which is called director mode. So if I come back into the top-down shot of the app here, if I click onto this one, it's got this thing called director mode. And what that allows you to do is from the single camera, you've obviously got the different presets, but you can also set in like different zoom levels, different crops, all from the one camera. So basically you can then switch between these different views to give you a different sort of view in the in the shot. So let me just show you an example of what this looks like in a sort of real world example. So here you can see more of these sort of tracking shots, but it's this thing, the AI director grid. So here you've got basically one shot, but then they've got these different parts that are cropped into these different people on the screen. So it means that you can easily just have a single camera shot, but then you're just cropping into different areas depending on what you want to show. So that's an interesting feature in itself. I mean, it's a bit like we do in Ecamm, where we bring something in as a camera, and then you can just have multiple scenes cropped into a different portion of the camera shot to give you those multiple different seemingly different camera shots. The other thing that you can do from this, which I haven't mentioned yet, is you can actually live stream directly from it. So within the app, you can set up an RTMP stream. So that means that you can stream to any platform as well. And here is just a little diagram showing all of the different ways that you can actually sort of connect this up. And the NDI, in fact, what's interesting, let me just come to this one thing that I was a little bit intrigued by was that here you can see I've got 4 cameras, and the top left, as it says, is Sony ZV-E10. The top right, which is now shooting right up my nose, so let me just give a bit of a better camera angle with that. That is the Tail Air over HDMI. The one over this side is RTSP with a wide connection, and in fact the one behind me is NDI, and although it says Wi-Fi, I have actually wired it up, so that's also wide as well. But just watch what happens if I raise my hand. Like, you can see the difference in the latency between these things, so you can see like where they are. And actually the NDI one is pretty consistent over the network with the one that's right in front of me, the Sony. There is a slight delay, I guess. In fact, there's probably slightly less of a delay in the Tail Air over HDMI than the Sony coming through the Streamer X. So it's just interesting to see, like, this is a real example of the different sort of latency that you get on things. The RTSP one seems to be a little bit slower, although it's connected wired exactly the same as the NDI one behind me is. Incidentally, when I was saying these are connected over the network, there is a separate device or separate dongle that you can get that is for power over Ethernet. So you plug in your Ethernet cable, you also plug in your power cable into that as well, and then it's got a pretty long USB a cable with a USB-C connector on the back, and you just plug that directly into the back of the device. I should probably talk about some pricing on these as well. As I say, this is a sort of Indiegogo or Kickstarter. They actually link to their Indiegogo. It's probably on Kickstarter as well. But if I just come over to this, there's various different kits, obviously. So the standard kit is just the camera itself. And when I say just the camera itself, it does actually come with a number of accessories. I'll come to that in a moment. You've also got the remote. Look at the price on the picture itself. The picture there is showing me Thai baht in my local currency, but the picture there is showing the US dollar price. There's the remote control kit, which is the camera plus the remote, 538. Then you've got this one, the power up kit. So this one has got the remote and the I think that includes the NDI, sorry, the Ethernet cable. It's also got a set of filters. So the filters, I haven't got those to test out. Those aren't quite ready yet, but those are available as well. I'll go through all the accessories in a moment. Then there's what they're calling the professional kit, which comes with a little tripod. It also comes with this extra charging stand. So I'll talk about that in a moment as well. It does have a built-in battery, but there is a sort of an extra beefy battery that you can get with that. The multicam kit comes with 3 of the devices, and then also the Ethernet, 3 Ethernet kits, and the remote as well. Let's just quickly look at some of those accessories, though. I'll just mention those. I've cunningly put the camera directly in front of the screen where I'm looking, and this is, by the way, the streaming interface. So you can actually stream from the devices through the mobile app. So there is this. This is something else that I don't have to test out at the moment, but this is a charging base. You can see that this basically just sits on top of that. The device itself does have these little contacts underneath it. So there's 2 little or a little bank of contacts underneath. So when it's sitting on top of this charging stand here, then it will just be sort of charging from that as well. So that gives it some extra power. And then the USB-C to Ethernet adapter. There are the ND filters. Just talking about what you actually get in the box, though. I do like their packaging, by the way, because you basically get a nice big box like that. But as soon as you open it, there is no extra packaging as such, apart from the little manual, because it's just got its own carry case. So no need for any extra packaging. I do like that concept, and I like the case that comes with it as well. So it's a really sort of tough hard shell case, and then in here you've got a few things. So there is the USB-C cable. You also get a USB-C to USB-A little adapter as well, and then the other thing that's in here is one of these, which is a little adapter which has got the USB-C on that end, and then on the back it's got 2 USB-C sockets. One of them is for power and one of them is for the camera output. So it means that you can still have this powered with a proper power supply, but then you've got the USB-C out going for your when you're using it as a USB-C webcam. I mean, it seems weird to call this a webcam because it seems so much more full-featured and anything but technically it is a webcam. Let me just come back to my comments, or say come back to my comments. I don't think I've even addressed my comments. So first of all, hello, David. Let's see you. Look at that. First day back into streaming, and of course my comments are all over the place. Hey, David, great to see you. Parker as well, fantastic to see you here. George, great to see familiar faces, by the way, people I met at Creator Camp. I've got my Creator Camp mug here. I use it every day to remind me of the times that we had. For my water, though, I've got one from Mr. Camera Junkie. Upgrade your skills. It was so great to see everyone at Creator Camp. I probably need to do a bit of a video or stream all about that because, yeah, I can't really describe what an amazing feeling that was to just sort of meet everyone there. Hey, Johnny, great to see you as well. Keely, waiting for yours from Kickstarter. So is it on Kickstarter as well? I just followed the link from their website, but yeah, it's on Indiegogo and I guess Kickstarter as well then. Hey there, Dan. How are you doing? I got back from vacation last week, so just on Friday or Saturday. Was it? I can't remember now. My mind is all a blur. Oh yeah, so tracking with an umpire on the pitch. I mean, the things that they've given, because you are actually selecting the examples they've given, if I complete my sentences properly, the examples they've given are, you're literally tapping on a particular person, and yeah, even with multiple people on the pitch, it will be interesting to see how that works. Certainly, some of the examples they've given here, though, with things like trees in the way, people walking behind, obstacles, they've been very clear about showing examples of people at a distance. Also, people walking past each other on stages and so on, to show that they are really targeting an individual person. So I can't wait for your test to see if it gets confused by things like that. Look at that, you can even have it follow the broccoli. That is pretty cool. So they talk about animal tracking and human tracking, but yeah, they also do vegetable tracking, it seems. So yeah, it'd be great to see your real world use case for that. Hey Marcus, great to see you here as well. So the comparison between this and the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, there is a comparison to be made there, because I forget who we were talking with this about just the other day, but about I've talked to a few people about this. I don't consider myself actually a camera guy, so I see that the and the audio as well very much is a kind of, these are the tools that I use to communicate with, and I dig into a lot more depth on the things like roadcasters and stream decks and all these things that have got these multiple different uses. But we're getting into a really interesting time with cameras where they are, if I just take this off the screen for a moment, we're getting into a really interesting time with cameras where these small compact things are really becoming, I'll tell you where it was in my weekly Q&A with my Academy members. Yeah, we're talking about, actually things like the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, something like this OBSBOT Tail Air, the quality of video that you can get out of them now in these sort of compact devices is such that, do we need to go down the route of having, some sort of fancy DSLR with mirrorless lens, or DSLR or mirrorless camera with a fancy lens to actually get some really stunning results? And the answer, as we've seen with cameras like the OBSBOT Tail Air, with the DJI Osmo 3, I mean, Doc did a great example of that in a hotel room with a pretty poor quality light, albeit fairly close to his face, but it was just showing that the quality of image that we can get is pretty great. And I will be testing the Osmo Pocket 3 as soon as I can actually get one. Seems to be a bit of a backlog in delivery, but there is a bit of a comparison to be made there. Comparing it to this, though, this is, I would guess, very much more of although it is a mobile device, you can see you can use it out in the field. Having multiple cameras set up like this is something that the DJI simply can't do. That is just a single camera. You could obviously just add more of them into the mix. It doesn't do any of the remote controlling, whereas this, obviously, some of those solutions of either a PTZ controller, something like this, the Ethernet as well, to have it actually a wide connection over Ethernet, being able to have all of those different transfer protocols for transferring stuff. If they ever make this, or when they get round to figuring out how to solve whatever issues they've had with that particular thing, that's going to be a really great thing too. So it is a different device. I mean, it's similar in that it's a pan tilt zoom camera, ostensibly with with tracking. So it'd be interesting to see like a side by side of the actual tracking of these two devices. So I'll leave that to others to do, or when I get one, then maybe I'll have to get the kids to run around the garden. And I'm also just mindful of your specific use case, Keely, and being mobile. Would you use this in the same way as the Osmo Pocket? The Osmo Pocket could certainly be a vlogging camera. I guess this could be a vlogging camera. You know, it's got tracking. You could literally have it like this. If I just activate the tracking on it for a moment, there we've got tracking. It's now following me around, and I can move wherever I want, and this thing is going to follow me if I set the tracking target correctly. So technically you could use this as a vlogging camera, but it's pretty massive, you know, by comparison to the Osmo Pocket. The Osmo Pocket will literally fit into your pocket, whereas this one certainly won't. However, although OBSBOT sent me this one of the things that happened at Creator Camp is on the last day, they were giving out various different prizes for different things. And one of the ones that I and Mummy Lala from mummyguide.com got for traveling the furthest. She actually came further. She came from Philippines, but was actually this one, which is another OBSBOT, and this is the OBSBOT Tiny 2. So if you're familiar with this device, just to put these two into perspective as to how big they are by comparison, you know, the Tiny 2 is you know, really teeny tiny. So if you were looking for something that was, and this is, you know, I know before the DJI, you know, this was Doc's sort of mobile streaming camera. So this type of camera, and this comes with things like, you know, a little magnetic stand so that you can clip it to the top of your computer and use it as a webcam. The quality of this is really great. This can be used over USB, so it's just a USB webcam. So, you know, this would be another sort of lightweight option if you're just looking for something that is a streaming camera that you know, literally just fits on the top of your computer with a little camera, with a little USB cable going into your computer. It's also got their AI tracking. This one also has a Stream Deck plugin. I'm going to do a whole separate video about this. But the Stream Deck plugin allows you to control things like pan, tilt, zoom, all the, you know, color grading and things like that, and then, you know, different presets and so on. So you know, all of this is to say that I'm not giving you a direct answer, because it kind of does depend on what you're wanting to do with it. Knowing that you're thinking about maybe doing some traveling though, the Osmo Pocket, being a pocket vlogging camera, if you were intending to do any sort of vlogging or anything like that, then that could be, you know, it could be really useful for that. One of the reasons why I'm keen to test it is because having been on holiday recently and taken my Sony ZV-E10 with whatever lenses I took with me, I rarely actually took the thing out of the bag. It was usually, you know, camera phones that people are using. Not using my camera phone, by the way. I'm still rocking a 6S. But, you know, the family have all got much better cameras than I have. So on their much better phones than I have. So it was, you know, my wife and daughter that was taking pictures. But I find that there's something, for me, I'm not really a sort of a photographer. I'm not big into cameras from that point of view, and it was quite bulky to be sort of carrying around, and so as a result, I wasn't really taking it out of my pocket. And then there is friction involved in actually dealing with that after the fact. One of the things that I like about the Osmo Pocket 3, from a vlogging point of view, or from me just, you know, actually capturing moments with the family, is the portability of it. It can literally fit into you know, my trusty tech pouch, which is my handbag. This is what I carry everywhere. But the Osmo Pocket 3 would fit into that. So from that point of view, I'm interested to use it for that. Interestingly, I mentioned to somebody that you were thinking of, you know, actually switching out your Sony for the Osmo Pocket potentially for your setup. And one question immediately came to mind, which was, what about the teleprompter? Like, how would that work with the teleprompter? And somebody said something genius, which was, well, actually, you know what? If you've got an Osmo Pocket, you could literally just have it right in front of a monitor, and the monitor, you know, it's that small. If you want to go for eye contact on Zoom, you could even, it's so tiny, you could have it in front of the Zoom window, and you would have that eye contact, but the camera would literally be in front of the screen because it is just that small. So yeah, that's my sort of feelings on that. They are slightly different use cases, and the Tail Air for certainly for these sort of multicam setups is going to be a real help to some of the people that I'm working with. So that was kind of my interest in it. Let me see. I need to get this up. Everything's really slow. By the way, those now how did that come up? I don't quite know how that came up, but if you are enjoying it, then do go and like and subscribe. I think I just tapped the Stream Deck with my my tripod, yeah. Let me just bring this up. My computer is telling me that I need to upgrade, and I'm just waiting for the new Apple laptops to be available in Thailand to put in my order. I need to do more into the multi-camera use of OBSBOT. I hadn't even paid attention to that as a possibility. Yeah, I mean, they work really well as that. I mean, obviously, you can just use one over NDI, and you could technically, I guess, set up multiple things. But yeah, I do like the little remote feature and that ability to control them remotely as well. The Pocket 3 would fit in your pocket. Quite rightly. You know, if only they'd named it something that would give it that implication. Let's see. That's a question in my mind too. Yeah, hang it. Maybe, like I've seen some of the crap webcams. Yeah, there is a webcam. I think Jeff uses one actually that's that is physically designed to hang over the top of your monitor. So yeah. I'm sure there will be a way of mounting it into the teleprompter though, because essentially it's just a case of, you know, having it going through the hood on the back, depending on what type of teleprompter you've got. Some of them got those sort of like cloth hoods that fit over the back. So as long as you could sort of mount it in there, it should be all right. I mean, this one potentially could mount into the teleprompter that I've got right now, which has got, you know, a sort of hood on the back of it, so it could fit into that. I did also wonder if, you know, it could be a case of obviously the gimbal can rotate in all directions, so maybe it could be just mounted from the back, sort of coming through at an angle, because as long as it's still got the ability to tilt like that, then yeah, you could literally have it sort of shooting through from the back of your teleprompter, so that so that it's kind of mounted more like that if it was going to go in a teleprompter. But anyway, yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, definitely we'll be checking out the Osmo Pocket 3 as well, because that was intriguing. But yeah, these cameras, I mean, somebody said it on DocStream where he was talking about the Osmo Pocket, you know, with having the wireless mic that you get with the creator kit with the Osmo Pocket as well, then that's kind of like an ultimate, you know, YouTube beginners starter kit, if you like, because it's got the mic, the thing like that. It's almost no excuse then not to do it. But I digress from these. As I say, so far I've been really impressed. I'm not quite sure what I've done to disable this one. Let me just try once more to reconnect this, because it has been working flawlessly until just now. But there we go. So in terms of the availability, I'm not quite sure what the shipping time is. Keely, you mentioned that you had got the you had ordered yours from Kickstarter, so I'm not sure of the delivery date on there. I'm going to be doing some more sort of formal videos. This is literally my sort of first impressions of them. But if I just come back over to this, I'll leave a link, or I have left a link down in the description. But if you just go to their website here, then you can order. Make sure that if you are ordering, this is the OBSBOT Tail Air. So there is also what's called the Tail. So the Tiny 2 was the little one that I showed you. So that is this one. There is the OBSBOT Tiny first generation. So that was their original one, but the Tiny 2 is higher resolution and so on. You've got these other options down here, but the OBSBOT Tail, so this is the sort of predecessor to the Tail Air, which I'm talking about now. So if you go onto their product page, you will see the OBSBOT Tail on there, but just note that that is the previous version. That's not the one we're talking about now. And definitely I would recommend the Tail Air that you want to check out. So go to the new product. That's where you're going to find all of the details about that. As I say, the accessories, I've tested the wireless connection, which is, the Ethernet connection, which is how these are all connected at the moment, and the remote. But a couple of other accessories that are in here are the power adapter for the bottom to give you increased life, and then also the NDI ND filters. There's too many acronyms in this game. Too many little abbreviated letters. So that is it for now. What I'm going to do though is, as I say, I'm going to make a couple of videos on the Tail Air for specific use cases, and more of a tutorial with a better capture of the app to go through all of the settings in detail. This was obviously intended just to be my first impressions. Choices. Indeed, Marcus, there are so many choices, especially with all of these new cameras that are coming out now that are giving really, great and affordable solutions for getting great quality images on your content and in your live streams. Any questions about this, then feel free to drop them in the Discord as well. So if you have any specific use cases you'd like to discuss, you can always drop those. Join the Discord. It's free to join the community. TakeOneTech.io/family. Come into the Discord, and then we can have a conversation about it, where we can all follow along with threaded conversations, unlike YouTube comments, which I still struggle to keep up with. Okie dokie. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll leave a link to some of my other studio videos over on the right-hand side. And I just want to say a big thank you to my supporters, Take One Tech Academy members, and also, of course, the supporters on my YouTube channel memberships as well. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. My little animation does